Hi, Danny.
Hi
Hi, everyone.
everyone. Welcome to episode 4.
Welcome to episode 4.
Welcome to episode 4.
This is a special one because we all, myself included, get to learn more about your journey of falling in love with the ocean. A journey that continues now, including a really fantastic snorkel we had this morning. We made it all the way out to the kelp forests from La Jolla Cove, which is a huge milestone for you.
It was amazing.
Yeah, you did so great, Dan. Really proud of you. Anything you want to share with the world before we dive in?
Yes. You're so enjoying your comments.
Yeah, we are. One of your goals, Danny, was to make this, in the end, a more interactive space. I think mainly through the Facebook page where we could have some discussions about the oceans and inclusion. So please keep the comments coming. We love them. How are you doing?
Good.
You love the beach?
Yes.
How do you feel when you're at the beach? S-O-P-N-E-A-C-E-F-U-L.
So peaceful.
So peaceful. A-N-D.
Beautiful.
C-O-N-N-E-C-T-E-D.
So peaceful and connected.
T-O-T-H-E.
Connected.
W-O-R-L.
Connected to the world.
So peaceful and connected to the world?
The water and salt in the sea is also in you and me. The waves come and go, and we are pushed to grow. But we can see with our hearts there's more than the sum of its parts.
Let's go.
Ready to go, Danny? So, to start, I'd love to hear you share with everyone what the sea means to you.
It is a place of refuge to me. I feel so at peace in the water. It is a place where my worldly worries don't matter.
That's really wonderful to hear, Dan. And I'm really glad that you have access to a space where you can feel that way. I mean, one of the many fantastic things about becoming fluent with spelling to communicate is learning more about your interests and your goals and your dreams, and learning that getting more familiar with the ocean, exploring the ocean in different ways is among those dreams. I'd always known that you seemed to like being by the ocean on the beach and that you enjoyed swimming, but when we'd go kayaking together or snorkeling together, I never was sure if you enjoyed it, because sometimes there'd be very obvious signs that you were not feeling comfortable, and so I didn't ever want to push you too far. But since we've been able to communicate fluently, you've shared you really want to explore all sorts of ocean activities. And I've also learned more about apraxia and the motor challenges, and to go very methodically and slowly and clearly and patiently when teaching you these new physical skills. So, yeah, it's been so much fun to literally dive more into exploring the ocean with you.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, it is such a gift. I'm so excited about my sea journey.
Yeah, I'm excited about your sea journey too. And just a note that we are very careful in how we approach it, being very mindful of safety, of pushing your comfort limits but not going too far beyond them to a state of panic. Always reading the ocean and erring on the side of caution. And I'm decently experienced in the ocean. I'm not an amazing water person by any means, but I am a rescue diver. I'm a strong swimmer. I also in life tend to err on the side of caution. So we are being careful and safe about it while also expanding Danny's horizons.
Exactly.
Exactly. So Danny, I'd like to take this back to the beginning and ask you, what was your first impression of the ocean? What's your first memory of the ocean? I actually don't know this.
Wow, wow, it was astounding.
Where and when was it?
It was in Japan when we were so little.
Yeah. We would have been really little.
You and I were on the beach together. We were looking out at the world, and all the sun in the world seemed dust.
That's beautiful, Danny. That's amazing.
We seemed like the only things that existed. It was mesmerizing.
Wow, Danny. That kind of blows my mind.
That was my most amazing new experience.
Yeah, I don't remember that at all as a raw memory, but I've seen photos of that time. We were really small. I'm kind of amazed that you remember that. And how about being in the water? Do you remember how it felt being in the sea that first time?
Wow, it was amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, it was amazing.
Okay.
I felt so soothed and a part of something immense. It was an enlightening moment.
Wow. How so? How did it enlighten you?
Wow, it was the first time I felt as a part of the universe.
That's amazing, Danny. That's really amazing.
Yes, it was.
I mean, I get that feeling often now when I'm in the ocean, feeling of being part of something bigger, something very profound, this feeling of connection. But I didn't really click onto that feeling until I was an adult, and that you had that feeling and remembered it so vividly from being, I think you would have been 2 years old or a little younger. That's spectacular. So this would have been around the time, around the age when we noticed there was something different about you.
I knew I was different. It was so confusing and difficult.
Yeah.
It was a dark, heavy cloud on my sword that was up by the sea blue that glad me for a short while.
I wish we had all had more of an idea what you were feeling, what you were going through. And I wish we'd realized how the ocean made you feel. I think I know we would have really worked hard to bring you to the ocean more. So you didn't actually learn how to swim until a couple of years later when we moved to San Diego. And the big reason why we moved to Southern California is for treatment for autism, which is a story for another time. But yeah, you learned how to swim. We were staying in a hotel while our parents were looking for housing here. And that's where your watery pursuits really began.
Yes, it was a major leap for me. I desperately wanted to swim, but Mom and Papa didn't know. One day at the hotel pool, I just started to jump into the water and go for it. And I did it. Mom and Papa were shocked and delighted.
Yeah,
I felt so strong and proud.
you must have. I think this is probably, in my memory anyway, the first time I had an inkling that there was a lot of drive and determination in you, and that you had goals that none of us had a clue about, and that even though you weren't talking, in your mind you were figuring out how to go after those goals despite your challenges.
And I continue to do it, but now I'm more able to share my goals.
Yeah. It means the world to us that we can know your goals so we can offer useful, meaningful support to you in pursuing those goals. I know it must have been really hard to go for your goals on your own, especially without anyone having any idea about them. And especially with the motor challenges, initiation challenges that often come with apraxia and autism.
Exactly.
Can you share more about what the ocean meant to you during the earlier part of our childhood in San Diego?
Yes. In our early years, we would regularly go to the coast.
Yeah.
That was astounded me, and the memories of what our explorations of the coast are among my most cherished. I fell in love with the ocean in those times that the physics stopped as life grew tougher.
Yeah. I mean, Danny, as with so many other things, I'm kind of astounded. And yeah, there's a measure of sadness, but also wonder that all of this was going on in your mind and you just couldn't share it with us that whole time. I remember those visits to the tide pools well. I think they're probably a reason why I gravitated toward marine conservation later in my life. And then you're right, life grew tougher for our family, and the time to access the coast just kind of disappeared for most of our childhood. And I think it's important to point out that this is the truth for a lot of families in San Diego, a lot of people in San Diego. We live in a county that's coastal, but access to the coast is a privilege, especially, for example, where public transportation routes from more inland areas to the coast are perhaps not the most direct. So I'm really grateful we had a chance to access the coast as children, and that now as adults we've rediscovered that and regained access to that.
Yes, it is truly a sim. It is not more accessible.
I agree. Even though we couldn't regularly go to the coast in our later childhood, we were really privileged that the house we grew up in had a pool. And one of my favorite memories from that time is just I'd be in the house doing homework or whatever, and I'd hear a loud splash, and then a loud, happy Danny squeal, and then there'd be wet Danny footprints all over the floor. I loved that.
I loved it so much. Being in the water was bliss, but it was not at all like being in the embrace of the ocean.
Yeah, I agree. So thankfully things got easier for our family, and you've been able to reconnect with the sea as an adult. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. It is hard to say exactly. Visits here and there with you and there and this, and starting to go to the dog pits regularly.
Yeah.
And a couple of visits to Catalina Island were so amazing.
Yeah.
I snorkeled and kayaked and was so smitten with it all. It was enthralling but daunting because it was new and my motor skills were slow.
Yeah, I definitely saw you expressing the daunting part, which again is the reason why I never tried harder to push you into these activities, other than walking on the beach looking for sand crabs and the occasional dips in the water. But now that's changed.
There's so much.
Yeah.
I'm so thrilled. I can't tell you what I really want to do and let you know my level of comfort. It is such a dream to to be able to dive into snorkeling and feel confident and strong.
Yeah, and it's really cool to watch you grow more confident and strong in the water.
It is a long journey to develop my motor skills for snorkeling. For example, it took weeks to learn to snorkel properly in my mouth. Now I work on kicking my legs.
And today you were really doing a lot of practice kicking your legs, which was good to see. It took me a little while to figure out why you were showing discomfort in the water and bobbing your head up so often. And I realized that you did have trouble keeping your mouth closed over the snorkel. And you've made great progress with that. And I remember, I don't know how long it was ago now, maybe a couple of months, the first snorkel outing where you felt comfortable with the snorkel in your mouth. And it wasn't a particularly good day of snorkeling. Visibility wasn't good, it was choppy. I timed it too late in the day so that it wasn't good lighting. But you came out of the water and you clearly felt so proud of yourself. You had such a swagger, you had confidence, and that was so amazing to see.
Yes, it was a huge step for me.
Yeah.
It might not seem so impressive, but for me it was monumental.
Yeah, well, I was definitely impressed, knowing how hard you worked to get there. Besides that, can you share some of the highlights from your snorkeling journey so far?
Yes. Much time to re up.
As much as you want, but
That time the two sea lions swirled around us was enchanting.
that was really, yeah, enchanting is the perfect word.
And
but-
of course the leopard sharks were so incredible.
Yeah, I mean, snorkeling with dozens of leopard sharks in shallow, clear water is something really beautiful, really special. We're lucky to have it here in San Diego. So how does it feel when you snorkel now?
I feel ecstatic.
Yeah,
I feel ecstatic. so at peace even with my challenges. It is a place where I feel so unified with everything.
I love that, Danny. And how does it feel to see the progress you've been making, doing something you love and something that used to be so challenging?
I feel emboldened to try more in life. I feel a confidence spreading that was suppressed by use of offered experiences in public school. It is a feeling of empowerment outside the artificial rules of society.
Wow, Danny. I love that. A feeling of empowerment outside the artificial rules of society. That's pretty awesome. How does being able to access the ocean and nature in general help you deal with challenges in your life?
So, it is so helpful to me in my regulation and well-being. It is an amazing remedy for my stress and anxiety, and it is something I wish all autistics could access regularly.
Yeah. And on that note, do you have any other thoughts on access to the ocean and how that relates to non-speaking autistics or other groups of people?
It is a wonderful resource that all should be able to enjoy it. I wish all could benefit from time at the cost.
I agree. I think it's a form of environmental justice. People might say, oh, it's just recreation, but it's not just recreation. It's much more profound than that. It does have to do with a sense of well-being. It's so important to quality of life. So I wonder how all of this links to your interest and your passion for ocean conservation.
It is an added motivation to advocate for the ocean. Seeing love on the water emphasizes the glory of what we are losing from our world as the oceans face increasing threats.
Yeah, I think it does help make it a more personal connection.
I'm truly in Anguish over the assault on our seas.
Yeah. Since communicating with you fluently, I've noticed that you and many other spellers seem to be really highly sensitive to the turmoil around them, perturbations, be they social or political. What's going on with this pandemic, the election. It really affected you in a very profound way. And I think that's something that's important to share, that even if you can't easily communicate, you know what's going on in the world, and you feel it. It seems the same is true for environmental turmoil.
Absolutely. It is something that I feel in a visceral way. It is a sense of violence against the beauty and success of the world.
Yeah.
We can feel it even if we can't express it.
Yeah. I think it's so important for the world to know that you and non-speakers like you can be extremely perceptive to these troubles, and that you also have the right to advocate for a better future. Is this the main motivation for this podcast?
Yes, I wanted to learn. Yes, I wanted to learn and teach together with those working for conservation. I'm so thrilled by what I've learned already in our first episodes, and I hope I also showed more people that I and others like me have a voice.
You definitely have done that. You definitely have taught people, even with just the first few episodes, that non-speakers do indeed have a voice and that it should be shared and listened to. On a similar note, one of our friends and fans, Jean from the Philippines, who's a great marine biologist over there, she shared a kind of troubling story, which might be a little distressing to our autistic friends, but it's an important story to share, I think. It's about a resort's response to an autistic kid squealing with joy while swimming in the pool at the resort. And the lifeguard told the mom that this wasn't acceptable behavior, and basically made the mom and kid feel very unwelcomed, even though they were paying guests and the kid wasn't harming anyone. And when the mom mentioned this on TripAdvisor, the manager of the resort responded with a really ignorant and offensive tirade of misinformation about autism. He said things like, well, obviously the child wasn't autistic because autistic children aren't vocal, they don't make noise like that, they're withdrawn, she's lying. Just really awful things like that. And the Autism Society of the Philippines highlighted this story and provided guidance for parents in this situation. And I hope that this story also kind of spreads awareness among the general public. But it really reminded me of your joy as a child squealing in the pool, just out of, like you said, bliss of happiness. And also showed me how much the general public still needs to learn about autism.
Wow, it was tough to read. We autistics are under constant pressure to stifle even our happy feelings. We are not able to easily modulate our physical responses, and what is such a sensory delight to many of us that we are overjoyed to be in it. And autistics also diverse in our expression. One conclusion about how we behave does not exist. I wish we could be more free to express ourselves, even if it isn't as weird.
Speaking of the ocean and feelings, you said before that the ocean brings you solace. And in 2018, our family suffered a really heartbreaking loss. Our father died from the flu. I know visiting the sea has helped you find moments of peace among the grief, and this is something we've discussed sharing in a future episode.
Yes, it is such an important part of my eating.
So you feel the destruction of the ocean very deeply, as you shared with us earlier. What gives you hope? What keeps you from being overwhelmed with despair?
I think it is human nature to hope.
Yeah.
It is a way of surviving and persevering.
Yeah.
Besides that, I would hope that those working in earnest for mindful conservation will make a meaningful difference, especially those working on the ground. And those youths are my big hope.
Yeah, they're my big hope too, and I'm really lucky to have met so many of them. These aren't necessarily all big names who are going to be featured in a flashy documentary or a magazine. You might not ever hear their names, but they're the ones working hard on the ground, devoting their lives to making meaningful difference. So, Danny, I want to thank you for sharing more about your ocean journey with all of us, including me. I really learned so much about you. You were worried, you were nervous that it was going to be boring, despite my reassurances. And I haven't been bored, and I don't think any of those watching are bored either. You have such wonderful insights to share with the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really, thank you all for watching. And for subscribing and sharing.
Yes, subscribing and sharing.
We will be back with more stories of ocean wonder and oceans in the sunny new year. Take care all.
Take care, all. Happy New Year. We did it, Danny! How you feeling?
What we can see with our hearts is more than the sum of its parts. What we can see with our hearts is more than the sum of its parts.